In the Grand Hall of the Galactic University, Professor Tay adjusted his formal robes as students filed in. The massive room could hold 300 beings from across the galaxy, and today it was nearly full. Tay's four eyes blinked nervously as he prepared his most controversial lecture of the term. When the room quieted, he activated the holographic display with a wave of his slender hand. Ancient symbols and strange images appeared in the air above the students. These markings were discovered on ruins across 17 different worlds, Tay began. They appear to have been made by the same species, a species many believe never actually existed. The students watched as images of ancient structures rotated above them. Some leaned forward with interest, while others slouched back, clearly skeptical. Humans, Tay said, letting the word hang in the air. According to old texts, they stood on two legs, had only two eyes, and lacked any natural armor or defenses. Yet these same texts claim they spread across multiple star systems in just a few centuries. A ripple of laughter moved through the room. From the third row, a blue-skinned student with gill slits raised a tentacle. Yes, Student Bay, Tay acknowledged. Professor, with respect, this sounds like a children's story. How could such physically weak creatures achieve space travel? The energy requirements alone would have exceeded their planetary resources. Tay smiled. This was the reaction he expected. A fair question. But consider this. What if their strength wasn't physical? Ancient records suggest humans possessed unusual mental adaptability. They could learn and change faster than any species we know. He changed the display to show a timeline. Most spacefaring species took thousands of years to progress from basic tools to leaving their home worlds. These humans, if the records are accurate, did it in less than 4,000 orbits of their star. From the back of the hall, another voice called out, "Professor, why study obvious myths? Next you'll have us believing and thinking rocks are fire that lives." The class erupted in laughter, and Tay waited patiently for it to subside. He was used to this reaction. For 30 years his colleagues had dismissed his research, called him obsessed, even tried to remove him from his position. "I understand your doubts," Tay continued calmly. "But science demands we follow evidence, not assumptions. And the evidence suggests something remarkable lived in this part of the galaxy before any of our civilizations emerged." He switched the display again, showing a map of unexplained ruins across the galaxy. These structures share similar materials and design principles, yet exist on worlds thousands of light years apart. The room grew quieter as students studied the map. Tay pressed his advantage. Humans supposedly possessed contradictory traits. They were described as both deeply cooperative and fiercely competitive, both logical and emotional to extremes, both fragile and remarkably hard to kill. He displayed ancient text fragments. Records indicate they could survive injuries that would be fatal to most species, healing from wounds that would require regeneration chambers for any of us. Student Bay raised her tentacle again. "But Professor, where did they go? If they were so adaptable and widespread, why aren't they still here?" "The most fascinating question of all," Tay said, his voice dropping. "Some texts suggest a great conflict. Others hint they may have simply moved beyond our understanding, or perhaps they withdrew from galactic affairs deliberately." At that moment, Tay's assistant, researcher Ju, slipped into the hall and hurried to the podium. He whispered urgently in Tay's ear, passing him a data crystal. Tay's four eyes widened as he inserted the crystal into the podium's reader. New information appeared on his private screen. "It seems," he said slowly, "that this lecture has become more timely than I expected." He looked up at his students, his voice steady despite his excitement. "Yesterday, the Deep Space Listening Post in Sector 12 detected a signal, a repeating pattern that matches theoretical human communication protocols." The room erupted in conversation. Tay raised all four hands for quiet. "The signal originates from an unexplored region near the outer rim. The Galactic Science Council dismissed it as random space noise, but..." He displayed a sound wave pattern. "This pattern shows clear signs of intelligence." Student Bay stood up. "Are you saying humans might actually exist, Professor?" "I'm saying," Tay replied carefully, "that we may have been too quick to classify them as myths. Tomorrow, I leave with a small expedition to investigate the signal. Any senior students wishing to join should submit applications immediately. As the class ended in excited chaos, Tay looked again at the data crystal's contents. After decades of ridicule, he might finally have proof. The signal was weak but clear, a message repeated in regular intervals, using mathematical principles that transcended language barriers. Someone or something was out there, calling into the darkness of space. And Tay intended to be the one who answered. The exploration ship Truthseeker moved silently through the empty space of the outer rim. Professor Tay stood on the observation deck, watching distant stars shimmer. The Galactic Council had only provided this small vessel and minimal crew for what they called his wild chase after ghost stories. "Professor, we're approaching the signal source," called Pilot Hana from the control room. Her scaled hands moved quickly across the navigation panel. Readings show a large object in orbit around the fourth planet. Tay hurried to join the small crew gathered around the main screen. The object grew larger as they approached, clearly artificial and unlike any ship design known to the galactic community. "Look at the size," whispered Engineer Minho, his antenna twitching with excitement. "It must be at least 3 kilometers long." Security Officer Day checked her weapons nervously. "Remember protocol. We observe only. No contact unless absolutely necessary." The Truthseeker slowed as it came alongside the mysterious vessel. Up close they could see damage across its hull, evidence of ancient battles or perhaps meteor strikes over centuries of drifting. "The signal is definitely coming from inside," said communications specialist Yoon. "And it's stronger now." Repeating, every 12 minutes, Professor Tay could barely contain himself. "Can we dock?" Day frowned. "Professor, that would violate at least 6 safety protocols." "Look." Tay pointed to what appeared to be a docking bay, its doors partially open. "The ship is inviting us in." After heated debate, the small crew prepared for boarding. They wore full environmental suits as they crossed through the temporary connecting tunnel between ships. Inside, emergency lights flickered dimly along corridors that seemed designed for beings of similar size to themselves. The air was stale but breathable according to their instruments. "Gravity system still functioning," noted Minho with surprise. "And minimal life support. This ship isn't completely dead." They moved deeper into the vessel, recording everything. The design was elegant but practical, unlike the ornate ships of the elder races or the purely functional vessels of the mining collectives. "These markings," Tay said, examining symbols on a wall. "They match exactly with those found on the ruins of Sector 7. Yoon's handheld device beeped. "The signal source is ahead, just through these doors." The large double doors slid open smoothly as they approached, revealing a vast chamber filled with rows of metallic pods connected to central machinery. Soft blue light pulsed through transparent tubes running between the pods. "Preservation chambers," whispered Tay, "or stasis units." The team spread out, examining the technology with awe. Each pod was frosted over, making it difficult to see, inside clearly. "There are beings in these pods," called Day from across the room. "Bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, just like the legends described." Tay rushed to her side, his heart racing. Through the frost he could make out a figure, smaller than himself, with a flat face and strange fur-like growth on top of its head. "Human," he breathed. "An actual human." Minho joined them, scanning the pod with his instruments. "Life signs present but minimal. They're in some form of suspended animation." "How many pods are there?" asked Tay. "I count 137 active units," replied Yoon. "Many more appear to have failed over time." As they explored the chamber, Minho discovered a control console that still functioned. "Amazing. Engineering," he muttered. "After who knows how many centuries, their technology still works." Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded. Red lights flashed across the chamber. "What did you touch?" demanded Dai. "Nothing." Minho stepped back from the console. It activated on its own. One pod in the center of the room began to glow brighter than the others. Its frost covering melted rapidly as internal temperature rose. "It's an automatic revival sequence," realized Tay. "One of them is waking up." Day drew her weapon. "Everyone, back to the ship. Now." "We can't leave," argued Tay. This is first contact with a species from legend. Those are our orders, Day insisted. Unknown life forms require quarantine protocols. The rest of the team began retreating toward the exit, but Tay stood his ground. I've spent my life researching them, I'm staying. Day hesitated, then sighed. You have 10 minutes. If you're not back by then, we leave without you. After the others left, Tay approached the activating pod carefully. The machinery hummed louder as final revival procedures completed. The pod's cover slid open, releasing a cloud of cold vapor. Inside lay a being exactly as the ancient texts had described, hairless except on top of its head, with thin limbs and no apparent natural defenses. Its chest began to rise and fall with deeper breaths. Then, unexpectedly, its eyes opened. They were dark brown and focused immediately on Tay. For a moment, neither moved, two beings from different worlds seeing each other for the first time. The human's lips moved, forming sounds Tay couldn't understand. But its expression showed no fear, only intense curiosity that matched his own. Professor Tay, vindicated after decades of ridicule, smiled with all four eyes and waited for the next chapter of galactic history to begin. The human sat up slowly, movements careful and deliberate. Professor Tay stepped back to give the being space, all four of his eyes fixed on this creature of legend. Water, the human said, the sound strange but clear. When Tay didn't respond, the human made a drinking motion with its hand. Understanding crossed Tay's features, and he quickly found a container of liquid from the ship's supplies. The human drank deeply, then looked around the chamber at the other pods. How many survived? It asked, though Tay couldn't understand the words. Researcher Ju rushed into the room, breathing hard. Professor, Security Officer Day sent me to warn you. The ship is preparing to leave. We can't leave, Tay replied firmly. History is happening right now. The human watched this exchange with intelligent eyes. It touched its chest. Park, it said clearly. Captain Park. Tay mimicked the gesture. Tay, he replied. The door slid, open again as the rest of the exploration team returned, curiosity overcoming their caution. Engineer Minho carried a translation device. I've programmed it with the language patterns from the signal, he explained, setting up the small machine. Between them and the human. Captain Park spoke again, this time longer sentences. The device hummed, processing, then produced a rough translation. My crew. How many pods still active? How long have we slept? Minho answered through the device. 137 pods show life signs. As for time, we don't know when. Your ship arrived here. Park's expression changed, something Tay recognized as sadness despite the alien features. We launched 800 years ago by our count. Emergency protocols forced hibernation when our drive systems failed. The team exchanged shocked glances. 800 years adrift in space, yet their technology kept them alive. Your species, humans, we thought you were myths, Tay said through the translator. Ancient stories. Why have we never encountered your kind before? Park stood carefully, testing her legs. She was shorter than any of them, barely reaching Tay's chest. We were out there, we were everywhere once, then we chose to disappear. Over the next hours, as Captain Park's strength returned, she shared humanity's story. The translation became smoother as the device learned her speech patterns. Humans advanced quickly, she explained, as they sat in what appeared to be a meeting room. Too quickly, perhaps. Within a few centuries, we spread to hundreds of worlds. The ruins we've found, Tay realized. Those were human settlements? Park nodded. We encountered many young species. Some feared us. Our adaptability, our ways of thinking. They seemed unpredictable to others. Dangerous. Minho leaned forward. What happened? A war, Park said simply. Not with aliens, but among ourselves. Different human factions had different ideas about how to interact with other species. She paused. The faction that believed we should withdraw from Galactic Affairs won. You abandoned your colonies? Asked Yoon. We resettled our people. removed evidence of our existence where possible, decided to let the galaxy develop without our influence. Park's eyes grew distant. My ship was part of a long-range exploration mission. We were too far out to receive the recall order. Tay struggled to understand. But why hide? Your technology was clearly advanced. Power without wisdom leads to destruction, Park replied. We learned that lesson too late. The Council of Earth decided our rapid expansion was harmful, both to ourselves and to emerging species. We needed time to mature as a civilization. As night cycle approached on the Truth Seeker, a decision had to be made. The Galactic Council needed to be informed of this discovery. But Day was concerned about political implications. If humans really once controlled large parts of the galaxy, some species will fear their return, she warned. Park surprised them by requesting to join their journey back. I should wake my second in command at least, she said. The rest can stay in hibernation until we determine what's best. The awakening of Second Officer Quan was much smoother than Park's had been. Within hours, both humans were aboard the Truth Seeker, heading back to the Galactic Hub. Our ship's emergency beacon will continue to protect the crew, Park explained. We can return for them later. On the third day of the journey, Tay found Park in the observation room staring at the stars. Are you afraid? He asked. Returning to a galaxy that has forgotten you? Park's lips formed what Tay now recognized as a smile. Not forgotten, she corrected. Transformed into legend, sometimes that's safer. Safer? Why? Because legends can be dismissed, Park said quietly, until they suddenly prove true. As the ship accelerated toward the Galactic Hub, carrying news that would forever change history, Tay couldn't help wondering what other legends might be waiting among the stars. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with voices. Delegates from 200 worlds filled the massive circular room. News of the humans' discovery had spread quickly, causing both excitement and fear. Captain Park and Second Officer Quan stood calmly before the council leaders. Though small compared to most species present, something about their steady gaze made others uncomfortable. High Counselor Su, a tall being with crystalline skin, called for order. We have verified that these visitors are indeed humans, the species previously thought to be mythical. Captain Park, the Council acknowledges your awakening and return to galactic affairs. Park bowed slightly. We thank the Council for their welcome. From the upper seats, a delegate with scaled skin and sharp teeth stood. How do we know these humans aren't the advance party for an invasion? Their ruins show they once controlled vast territories. Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the chamber. Tay, watching from a side gallery, felt his heart sink. The fear was spreading exactly as Day had predicted. We are not conquerors, Park replied evenly. As I explained to Professor Tay, humans withdrew from galactic affairs by choice. My ship was lost on a research mission. Then why return now? Demanded another counselor. Before Park could answer, the chamber's emergency alarms activated. The massive screens surrounding the room flashed red with warning symbols. Multiple unidentified vessels have appeared at the edge of the system, announced a security officer. They're not responding to hails. The screens showed dark ships approaching in formation, sleek, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Void Collective, whispered Counselor Su, shock evident in her voice. But they've been dormant for centuries. Quan stepped forward. What is this Void Collective? An elder counselor, his fur gray with age, explained quickly. Machine intelligences from the far rim, self-replicating. They consume resources from entire planets we thought they had gone dormant or destroyed themselves long ago. The screens now showed the collective ships accelerating toward the hub. Defense vessels moved to intercept them but were quickly overwhelmed. Our shields are failing, called a military officer. They're using some kind of energy we've never seen before. The council chamber erupted in panic. Some delegates rushed for private ships while others demanded military action. In the chaos, few noticed Captain Park and Quan moving to a quiet corner, speaking urgently into a small device. Professor Tay followed them. What are you doing? Park's face was grim. Calling for help. From whom? Your crew is still in hibernation. A small smile crossed Park's face. Humans never really left, Professor. We just stepped back. Within minutes, the massive screens showed new ships appearing throughout the system. Dozens, then hundreds of vessels unlike any the Council had ever seen. Some were sleek and fast, others massive and heavily armored. All bore markings similar to those on Captain Park's ship. Impossible, breathed Counselor Sue. Where did they come from? The human fleet moved with surprising coordination, forming a protective barrier between the hub and the approaching collective ships. When the machine vessels fired their strange energy weapons, the human ships absorbed or deflected the attacks, using technologies the Council races had never witnessed. We've been watching, Park explained as the Council leaders gathered around her, observing from hidden bases, learning about the galaxy's development without interfering. All this time? Asked Tay. Quan nodded. Humanity never abandoned the galaxy. We just learned that sometimes protection works better from the shadows. On the screens, the battle unfolded with stunning speed. The human ships employed constantly changing tactics, adapting to each collective strategy. While Council military officers watched in amazement, human vessels performed maneuvers thought physically impossible. Their battle approach is unlike anything I've studied, said Defense Commander Gill. They don't follow standard formations or attack patterns. Each ship seems to operate independently, yet somehow maintains perfect coordination. Within hours, the Void Collective retreat began. Their remaining ships pulled back, pursued by smaller human vessels to ensure they left the system completely. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in from across the hub, Captain Park addressed the still-stunned Council. The threat is contained, for now but not eliminated. The Collective has been probing the edges of civilized space for years. We've been holding them back. Why didn't you tell us? Demanded a counselor. We had a right to know. Would you have believed us? Park asked, simply. Or would you have feared us more than the threat we were fighting? Silence filled the chamber as the truth of her words sank in. Professor Tay stepped forward. You said humans withdrew to let the galaxy develop without your influence. But you've been protecting us all along, Park nodded slowly. Some lessons we learned too well. Watching species fear us, seeing how our mere presence changed their development, it taught us caution. But abandoning those who needed protection was never an option. As repairs began across the hub and medical teams treated the injured, the Council chambers remained filled with delegates staring at the screens, watching human ships patrol their system. Ships that had always been there, hidden just beyond sight. The myth had become reality, and reality had saved them all. 1 month after the battle, the rebuilt Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council shone with new light. The damage from the Void Collective attack had been repaired, but the galaxy itself remained forever changed. Captain Park stood at the center of the chamber, facing representatives from 1,000 worlds. Some looked at her with admiration, others with lingering suspicion. Behind her stood a line of human delegates, each wearing the simple blue uniforms that had become familiar across the hub. Today we formalize what began in crisis, announced High Counselor Sue. The full return of humanity to galactic affairs and the signing of the new Galactic Accord. Park stepped forward to the agreement table. The document before her represented weeks of careful negotiation, a delicate balance between integration and independence. Humans accept this invitation with gratitude, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber, but also with humility. Our history taught us hard lessons about the responsibilities that come with power. From his seat among the scientific advisors, Professor Tay watched with pride. His life's work had been vindicated beyond his wildest dreams. The myths he had studied for decades now walked among them, sharing knowledge and helping rebuild after the attack. Park signed the document with a simple stylus, a deliberate choice, to use traditional methods rather than the advanced technology humans clearly possessed. As she finished, soft applause filled the room. With this agreement, the hidden fleet will now patrol openly, she continued. The defense network will be strengthened with human technology, shared gradually to allow proper integration. An elder, counselor from the Mineral Collective spoke up. We still don't understand why you hid from us for so long. Were we not worthy of knowing the truth? Park considered her answer carefully. It wasn't about worthiness. When humans first expanded into the stars, our presence changed how younger species developed. Some began to worship us. Others feared us so deeply they destroyed themselves trying to match our technology too quickly. She gestured to the galaxy map glowing above them. We wanted you all to find your own paths, develop your own strengths. The galaxy is stronger with diversity of thought and approach. And the Void Collective? Asked another counselor. You've been fighting them alone? Second Officer Quan stepped forward. Not entirely alone. We made alliances with several species, from beyond the rim. The battle you witnessed was just one skirmish in a longer conflict. The revelation sent murmurs through the chamber. Beyond the rim lay unmapped space, regions the council races had never explored. There is so much more to share, Park said, but slowly, at a pace that allows for true understanding. After the formal ceremony, delegates mingled in the grand reception hall. Park found herself approached by Professor Tay, who now served as chief liaison between humans and the scientific community. The university is overwhelmed with applications, Tay told her, all four eyes blinking happily. Everyone wants to study human history now, Park smiled. And human students are eager to learn about cultures we've only observed from afar. The exchange program is already oversubscribed. They watched as human delegates chatted with representatives from across the galaxy. Some demonstrated simple technologies or shared stories that made others laugh. The initial fear was giving way to cautious friendship. I've been wondering, Tay said quietly. Your ship's distress signal. Was it really an accident that we found it? Park's expression remained neutral. What makes you ask that? The timing seems convenient. Just when the Void Collective was preparing its largest attack. Park looked out at the stars visible through the hall's massive windows. Let's just say that myths sometimes choose when to become reality. Outside the reception hall in the main plaza of the hub, ordinary citizens from hundreds of worlds gathered to watch the human ships now openly patrolling the system. Children pointed excitedly at the vessels performing demonstration flights. Small human girl, daughter of one of the diplomats, played a simple game with alien children, teaching them to throw and catch a ball. Their laughter bridged differences in language, biology, and worlds of origin. In a quiet corner of the plaza, an elderly alien sat beside a human elder. Neither spoke as they shared the simple pleasure of watching the sunset over the hub's gleaming towers. The legends of old had warned of human unpredictability, their strange ways and dangerous potential. What those legends had failed to mention was their capacity for connection, their willingness to protect without demanding control. As night fell on the first official day of humanity's return, the stars seemed somehow brighter than before, not because they had changed, but because everyone now looked at them differently. The galaxy was larger than anyone had imagined, filled with both dangers and possibilities, and no one faced them alone anymore.